Nationals continuing now with pro stock action, and let's take a look at the ladders to this point so you'll see how things went in round number one. If you aren't with us, number 16 qualifier Jake Coughlin knocked off number one Mark Osborne. That was the big story of the first round.
Yeah, Osborne was probably pretty excited going into the U.S. Nationals on the pole until just a few hours ago.
There you see on this side, Krisher, Stevens, Kurt Johnson advancing as well. Of course, the other big story, the fact that Warren Johnson, after his burnout, had the car stall on him in the opening round, and he could not go racing, and that's why WJ's name was not there. But here now is Jake Coughlin drawing Alan Johnson here in this round. Jag turned a 7:01 in the opening round of competition, basically his best run of the weekend. He had qualified at a 7:02, and that's what Johnson ran, a 7:02, when he beat Darrell Alderman in round one.
It's going to be important, as it usually is on the starting line with reaction times, but for either of these guys to have a chance at winning the U.S. Nationals today, I think we're going to need to see a high 690 run.
The conditions might be suited. Virtually identical reaction times. Virtually identical till they get to the finish, and that's where the 695 of Jake Coughlin will win it at 196. You called it, Frank.
Yeah, they both got into the sixes that time. Margin of victory just a little less than 200ths of a second. A couple hundredths at the starting line, and that was the difference. But it looks like Dick Maskin and the guys got it figured out. They got Jag into the middle 690s with a 95, and that's the kind of performance that could win him the U.S. Nationals. And this would be a great weekend for him to make a step forward with some of those other drivers going out early.
At the 1,000-foot mark, it was still basically dead even, but then down the far end, that last few feet, that's where Jag really kicked it in. So Jake Coughlin will advance as we check in with Steve.
For a guy who barely qualified, you're looking pretty good now with a 695, Jiggy.
Yeah, I tell you what, she got up and went that time. You know, we've had 7 runs to get this thing to run, and it took us to the 7th run to get down through there. It wasn't a lack of trying. No, Dick Maskin and Gary Pearman and my father, Jag, everyone's been doing a great job. So
thanks, Jaggy.
Richie Stevens and Ron Krisher. There's the kid, Richie Stevens. And there's Ron Krisher, who's had a spectacular middle of the 2000 season. There's a stretch there where he was unbeatable, winning Chicago and Gateway. The kid's not staged. Now he is. Stevens with the advantage. But Krisher will outpower him. Richie Stevens had the start, had the lights, but Krisher at a 692, beating the 695. 692 at 196 miles an hour.
Margin of victory, 9 thousandths, less than a 100th of a second. And one of the things I really enjoy here is pro stock for so many years has been dominated by 1 or 2 drivers. And then to see somebody like Krisher step up and be able to race with these guys, beat them and win some races, that's pretty neat. I'd like to see some new faces and new names in the winner's circle.
52 years of age. He is an entrepreneur. I said, what exactly do you do? He said, I'm involved in wire and freight, in scrap and remanufacturing, in natural gas and oil. I said, you're an entrepreneur. He goes, I'll take that. He's also a winner. TNN Sports live coverage of the U.S. Nationals from Indianapolis is being brought to you by Mopar. Parts for Chrysler, Plymouth, Dodge, and Jeep vehicles from the dealerships that sell and install them. Pro Stock Eliminator continuing here. We're in the midst of round 2 at the 46th annual U.S. Nationals. Eli Gold, Frank Hawley, Steve Evans. On the right, Kurt Johnson. On the left, Troy Coughlin. They've done their burnouts. You see Kurt has pre-staged. That's that first amber light at the top of the tree. Now, what is the idea of this outweighting the next? Now they're both getting in.
Well, the driver that's sitting in there fully staged for a while sometimes feels like he's at a bit of a disadvantage because he really can't control the start of the race.
Kurt Johnson with the impressive jump. And Kurt Johnson with the impressive power from his daddy's garage. 692 for Kurt Johnson at 197 miles an hour. Left Troy Coughlin at the start.
Yeah, this is going to be nothing but a 6-second Pro Stock show with these conditions like this. And as I said earlier, the Pro Stock cars, although they don't smoke the tires like the fuel cars do when they lose traction, they can lose valuable time by spinning the tires as they head down the track. So they need a good racetrack just like the rest of the cars do.
It's never good when you can see your opponent out your left side winner. Hey, Steve, how about Ron Krisher? He was 18th in points last year, 3rd this year.
Oh, man. To anybody who's really watching, I think this guy is the Pro Stock story of the year. Another nice 692. That'll do it.
That was a pretty nice run. We knew we could do it. We were overclutched the first run. I had to drive the heck out of the car. Couldn't keep it in the lane. Mike kept telling me, I don't care what lane we're in, we're going to go fast. We switched up the clutch a little bit, made change in the bar, and away we went.
And he meets up with Kurt Johnson in the Final Four. Who has lane choice, I wonder? They both run 692.
It will be Kurt Johnson who does have the advantage there. Meanwhile, Mark Pawuk now against George Marnell. The winner will get Jeg Coughlin. Quite a prize to get Jeggy in the semifinal round, but at least you're there.
I was going to say the alternative's not too good.
Yeah. There you see Mark Pawuk already gets the win as George Marnell has his problems right at the start. So Mark Pawuk with the win as Marnell fouls out. Give it a 694 at 196 miles an hour. So that is going to give Mark Pawuk the lane choice against Jeg Coughlin. Pawuk's 194 to Jeg's 695. And on the other side, you've got Ron Krisher and Kurt Johnson, with Kurt holding lane choice. Friday night on TNN, it's a whole new season on Roller Jam, and if season number 4 is anything like the previous 3, you can expect full night of thrilling action. Tune in Friday nights at 9 Eastern and Pacific for Roller Jam. It's a part of TNN's Thrill Zone Friday. We are at Indianapolis Raceway Park. Eliminations underway for the 46th running of the U.S. Nationals. Now it is time for Pro Stock. We've got Jeg Coughlin, Mark Pawuk, Ron Krisher, and Kurt Johnson all trying to earn their way into the championship round of the U.S. Nationals. And we'll begin with Mark Pawuk and Jeg Coughlin. Jag obviously has been the hot guy all season long, though he hasn't a win since May. Mark Pawuk, he's been consistent this season, and sometimes that's what you just need to pull off a win at an event such as this. He is the winner in Columbus, Ohio, while Jag, of course, as we said earlier today, has won significantly early in the season, but has no U.S. national wins.
We've got the same situation as we had in Funny Car here. We're going to need to see some 6-second Pro Stock times. We've seen them earlier today, but that's going to be the kind of performance that's it's going to take to get through this round and on into the final.
Pawuk had a 694 before. Jag had a 695. Again, they've pre-staged, but nobody's going into the staging beams.
This is something the guys do sometimes, and I don't think it hardly ever works. It takes 2 people to mess around in a game like this, and I don't think it really serves a purpose.
Starter Rick Stewart in the foreground there with that straw hat on his head. You see him just waiting. Now finally Pawuk stages. And Jag is in. Times are identical, but the win goes to Jeg Coughlin. The win goes to the leader in points, a 698 to the 699, 196 miles an hour for Jag.
Well, once they got in and finally decided to race, like you said, the reaction times were within 100th of each other, and it was a good drag race to the rest of the way down the track.
Watch it again. Identical off the start. And the margin of victory only 19 one-thousandths of a second. Not much. Nice and smooth for Jag Coughlin, who has a 280-point lead in the standings. Steve, he's going to pad that.
Jag Coughlin, you've had 4 different engines in this car this weekend, and here we go into the final round.
Yeah, we've had a few and struggled to qualify, but Team Jegs, you can't ever count them out. And taking out Mark Pawuk's tough duties, and we're looking forward to the final.
Let's see who you're going to race.
It will be either Ron Krisher or Kurt Johnson. Johnson on the right, Krisher on the left. Remember, Warren Johnson went out early today. So Kurt has the family honor on the line, but Krisher's been tough. A good start. Advantage Krisher. At the finish, advantage Krisher. Krisher going from start to finish with a 692 at 196 miles an hour. 692 will give Krisher lane choice over Jag Coughlin.
Boy, that's quite a race. And as I said earlier, it's great to see some of these drivers that maybe aren't the Warren Johnsons of the world coming out here and being able to race with these guys. So Krisher's had a heck of a race this year and this weekend.
The reaction tells the story. Ron Krisher is going to the finals. He'll face Jag for the U.S. Nationals Championship. More coming up from Indy in a moment. Now it is time for Angel Sealing and John Smith, the first pairing in the semifinals of Pro Stock Bike. But first, a thought from Ron Krisher, who pulled off that huge win moments ago.
With huge performance, 692, best of the U.S. Nationals.
Oh, man, it was great. I was ready for that one. We were ready for the one before, and I was really wired up. You know, Kurt beat me last time we met, so I figured it was my turn after Brainerd.
Just got to drive with Jeggy. That could be the problem.
Convincingly in the opening weekend of National Football League play. Now Jag Coughlin. Earlier this year, he could not lose. But since early May, he has failed to win, but he's been consistent, building up a 280-point lead atop the Pro Stock diversion. Then there's Ron Krisher, who, as we had mentioned earlier in the show, has 2 wins this season, 4 #1 qualifying spots, all of that coming in mid-season, Frank.
You know, Krisher's got, I've been looking at the last 2 rounds of competition, 692, 692. A lot of horsepower there from that machine that he's found. And these are vehicles that there usually isn't a lot to be found. In other words, they are maxed out. The people spend thousands of hours on the dyno. And so he's got something he's figured out right now.
And Steve, Krisher was quickest in practice here last week.
He sure was. And here's an oddity. In Pro Stock, Jed came from the 16th spot. When we see Funny Car, Whit Bazemore came from the 16th spot. When we see Top Fuel, he came from the 15th spot in Lapshaw. Unbelievable.
You never know at the U.S. Nationals. Here we go for Pro Stock Finals. A clean start, but Jag has the advantage. At the finish, Jag Coughlin for first-time winner since May back in Atlanta, May the 7th to be exact. He adds to his win list of Pomona, Phoenix, Las Vegas, Houston, Richmond, Atlanta, and now the U.S. Nationals.
He showed how he won a lot of those races earlier in the year. He pulled it out when he needed a 4.14 second reaction time, 4:14 light, spectacular, and he needed every bit of it because the margin of victory was just 4/1000ths of a second at the end of the track. The car got outrun, but Jeggy didn't.
And of all the things he's done, he is now finally a U.S. Nationals champion. First time that he has taken the win here at Indianapolis Raceway Park. Miss Winston, Jackie Beck, and Steve Evans, Mr. Drag
Some of
Racing.
Jeggy's wins have been easy. This was not. Quickly, Jeg, congratulations.
Oh, man, I tell you what, this is just a spectacular weekend for us. The Carcraft event this weekend, Team Jegs did a great job getting some accolades there. And Indy, you know, we struggled. We're from the 16th spot, we won the U.S. Nationals. And, you know, my hat's off to Ron Krisher and the Eagle One Group. And, you know, our truck team did a great job this weekend, qualifying on the pole and John getting to the final. And just got to say, this one's for everyone home at Jegs and Dart Machinery. And say hello to my wife, Karen. I love her.
That trophy will have a special place on the
Indeed
mantle.
it will. And the point total now for Jeg, he's got 1,401 points on the year. He's now 277 up on Ron Krisher.